Hey everyone, this is Chris, and we're back for another episode of 2099 OCR video. We are doing another Make Your Pitch. Now, this one I will do substantially quicker. I'm not going to do 40 minutes this time round. Also because this one doesn't actually involve much casting, so I don't feel like I need to explain the reasons why. So this will be a heck of a lot quicker. And what I'm doing for my pitch today is for a Star Trek anthology series. As much fun as it is to think about making a pitch for a Star Trek film, that's a little more complicated because Star Trek is, even though it is a film franchise, it has by and large always succeeded as a television property. And it's exciting to see where that can go and what that medium would allow. And this is also partially inspired by listening to some audiobooks about the production of Star Trek recently. I think it was the 50-year journey. It's split into two parts. The first one is an oral history about the production of the show and the TOS films. And then the second part is looking at next gen through Star Trek Into Darkness and a little bit of Beyond. And both are just fascinating listens. And Trek's in an interesting spot because it's on Paramount Plus. There's several shows going on, which is where Trek was at its most successful in the 90s, but it doesn't have the constraints that network television would have on it. And while I haven't seen many of the Trek shows, I saw the first several episodes of Discovery and it lost me. I heard it got better, so I might eventually give it another shot. I got partially way through Picard and I was really digging it, but mental health impacts what you can enjoy, even when it's things you enjoy. So I haven't tracked that as much, although I know their third season was like a TNG reunion, which is dope. They also have the Pike show. I just can't remember which one that is. So they've got several shows going on. But I remembered particularly being disappointed when Discovery was rolling around that it was going to be another prequel show, this time closer to TOS, and then it was looking very, very different. And what I had hoped Discovery would be, and it's not fair to hold Discovery to that, is I always thought that a good way to test to see what people would want out of Trek, because it has such a varied fan base, and Roddenberry's vision, as much as people cling to it, did go in various different directions. I always thought an anthology show would have been the way to go. And that is what I'm pitching. I am pitching a Star Trek, a Star Trek anthology TV series. It would be about 12 to 16 episodes with a runtime of 42 minutes each. So think of it like you're just streaming Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, pretty much any of the shows. You go for it like that. Now, where I change things up a little bit is it wouldn't be an anthology building up to any particular story or any particular event. It would just be about building up Star Trek and fleshing out some of these things that we haven't seen or we've seen very little of, or with some of them, they're like doing a story for the fans of this franchise. And I'll get into it in a second. So what I would also do though is deliberately every cold open or teaser to the episode, I would not make it obvious what the story's going to be about. I wouldn't make it known, like you're not just opening the story and right away you're seeing Jean-Luc or anything like that. Like I'd want to build a little anticipation So for example, like one of the episodes I'd pitch is a wharf episode. So in this, if we're using that as the example, it would be like on the wharf episode, we're following around other Klingons. We're maybe doing one tracking shot with someone as we're seeing stuff around the character, and then the last thing we see right before the title credits is Michael Dorn's face as Worf. I'd like to do a little bit of a build up with that, just because I think there can be some fun in the mystery, especially with the Anthology series. So yeah, it would be 12 to 16 minute episodes. No announcement beforehand what episode is coming when. And then it would mostly be one-offs, but there would also be some two-part stories that are immediately connected. So that teaser rule wouldn't happen in part 2. And with those two-part stories, those I would save for, say, we're doing something with Voyager, like Voyager returning to the quadrant. So that's one of the episodes I would do. I would do a 2-part Voyager episode, pretty much right from when they return, and I would lift as much stuff from the excellent fan-produced Voyager Season 8 audio book that's being released by a fan that's just really, really good. Maybe not do that entirely, but lift some stuff from it. Because Voyager was a mixed bag, but there are die-hard Voyager fans. And since you have the opportunity to service them, why not? There would also be I'd pitch a 2-part Enterprise story with as much of the cast and showrunner from season 4, Manny Coto, returning. The other thing I would do is with each of, especially with these kind of episodes, where it would be about a particular era of Trek, or going with, say, Enterprise or Voyager or even DS9, I would bring back not just as many of the cast, but as many of the creative people from those teams that were still there. So then you're also getting as close to an experience of the show when it was on as possible. Yes, this could balloon budgets and stuff, but you've got a very successful streaming service. Why not? Why not? So another 2-parter I would have is potentially one with DS9 and Ira Stephen Bear. There was an excellent DS9 documentary from a couple of years ago, and in that, Bear and the writers had a pitch for their DS9 season 8. I'm not sure it would be like go directly with that, because also, unfortunately, one of the actors has passed. But it would be that kind of spirit of how can we pick up where we left off? Some of the one-off episodes, it would be, like I said, one with Worf, post-Nemesis, pre-Picard. There could be stuff you could explore there, like how the character got from where he was at in Nemesis to where he's at in Picard. Because also, at the end of DS9, like, he's still mourning the loss of his wife Jadzia. He's becoming one of the ambassadors and serving Martok. So there's ground to explore there. You could also have some fun with a one-off episode about the Enterprise B, which we've only ever seen in Generations. And there could be a fun story there, like exploring that captain and sitting in the shadow, the unenviable shadow of Kirk, especially when he sacrificed himself to save y'all on your maiden voyage. You could do a one-off with the Enterprise C, which was a cool looking ship and we only ever saw in yesterday's Enterprise. And that could be a fun way to also go back to that pre-TNG era, but that's really, really close. Do something a la Trials and Tribulations from DS9, where they painstakingly recreated so much stuff from the Tribbles episode of TOS, and you could do that where you're focusing on random members of the crew, and you learn midway through, like, oh, hey, we're on the Enterprise. Like, we know the air we're in because of the vibrancy and the color and the vast amount of people and the look. But then it's, oh, we're on the Enterprise. We're in this episode. And that way also, because you can look at Trials and Tribulations as an amazing example of this, where they had Cisco interacting with Kirk and the other cast interacting with the TOS cast, because they were able to insert them into the show without it feeling very, very weird. I think you could have some fun with that. You could do episodes from other non-Federation people's POV. You could do one in the Gamma Quadrant where you're realizing, like, oh, I'm following the Dominion, and this is where we're becoming aware of the Federation encroaching our space. Now we're feeling angry and vindictive about this. You could also do an episode looking at Nero from Trek 09 and his, like, seeing things through his eventually very rage-filled eyes in Trek 09, but it being in his perspective, somebody from Romulus's perspective, before Romulus met its fate that it did in Trek 09. The most expensive and borderline out there idea would be, you could do a 2-part Kelvin timeline episode. Like, Trek has so many different eras and alternate realities. You could do a mirror universe. You could do some where you're just set in the mirror universe and following that crew. You could do stuff in the Kelvin timeline. Why not do something going back to Enterprise and following after that series finale? There were some interesting ideas that they had for if they did a 5th season. Why not revisit those? The other advantage of this is, if any, like, not only can you just keep doing this anthology series easily, like do another season just focusing on different stories or different species, different characters. Like, why not do one with Quark? Because people loved Quark from DS9. But also, if you see that the fans really, really respond to certain of the episodes, like the example I'll give is the Enterprise 2-parter, because the show was starting to actually get really good but it was getting there too late. Its best, in my opinion, its best season was its final one. If the show had been doing that from the beginning, it might have lasted longer. And there's so much to unpack there, just because fatigue and changing of the guard at UPN and blah, 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 blah. But what I mean is, instead of just being like, oh, we're going to do this show with Pike and this era, which I'm not arguing, go for it. But also, why not revisit stuff that people have asked for and there was a fan demand for? And then, especially if you're nervous about sinking into the budget or like a longer term thing, use the Anthology series as the testing ground for it. And then if fans respond really, really well to the Enterprise 2-parter, then you're free to spin it off into its own mini-series. And then you're getting a mini-series of Enterprise Season 5. And you could do the same with the DS9 Voyager. If people love the Enterprise B or C, like, Anthology series can be great testing grounds for not only helping limit the stories and focus them, but also if something really, really works and people dig it, you have a way to point to it and be like, hey, there might be something here. It's almost like taking the comic book model, where they'd release like a Robin, before Robin ever got a solo series, there was 4 mini-series, and people saw the sales and saw the response, and that's where they're like, all right, let's go for it. So I would love to see an anthology series from Trek. I really, really enjoy Star Trek, and it's in a place now where it can visit the various timelines, so why not? And I'm not saying just give the nostalgia bait stuff, just give the Enterprises, just give the Voyagers, just give this. But there are a lot of fans of those shows and that era of Trek and of those characters, why not service them in this way? What's stopping you? There could be a lot of attention, goodwill, and money from it as well, along with some really good stories. Anyways, that's my pitch for a Star Trek series. I'd love to hear what yours is. Let me know in the comments. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care, and God bless. Peace!